Welcome to my no-nonsense worked answers for the OCR paper from the summer of 2024, and unlike the other exam boards, it's paper 1, which means calculator allowed. So let's go. Early questions, never take them too lightly. It's easy to make simple mistakes and don't try and overcomplicate. So when you're asked for an even number, keep it to your single digits, 2, 4, 6, 8. Don't start trying to be an absolute melt. A multiple of 7, again, start at 7, and as long as it's in your 7 times table, same again. So 7 and 14, why would you be daft and go any further? A cube number, so don't forget, only wanting 1. If you go on to list a second, which happens to be incorrect, you lose that mark. So keep it simple. I'd have just stuck with 27. But for obvious reasons, 64, 125, and 216 were also acceptable. My pen's been a bit dodgy. 7 was... Anyway, prime number less than 10, they're all pretty straightforward. I'd have just gone with 2. But obviously 3, 5, and 7, also acceptable. On we go to number 2. Write down the median. No, it's not 4. They're not in order. Unfortunately, it's one of those where you have to be wide awake. Make sure you put them biggest to smallest or smallest to biggest, and the number in the middle is our median. A 6th number is added to the list. Now, most people will assume it's added to the right-hand side, and therefore you add 15 onto the 3 to get 18. Could also be down here. Doesn't say all the integers are positive, so another acceptable answer would be to subtract 15 from 12, and you get the other correct answer of -3. 3a, as always, when you're measuring something with a protractor or a ruler, the rule of 2 applies. So with angles, you're allowed to be 2 degrees out of their perfect answer, which in this case is 133. Question B, explain how you know the triangle is isosceles. I'll let you put it into your own words. You don't have to fill all the... At the end of the day, that's it. There are 2 equal angles. That's all you need. That's what makes it isosceles. If you've overcomplicated and said 2 equal angles means 2 equal sides, well, it's right, but, just that extra bit of waffle, it's costing you time. As you can see, I still don't trust myself with technology. As you can see for part C, still don't trust myself with electronic devices and so on. At the end of the day, it's 2 marks, and it does say include notation. So the line's drawn. That line is 6 squares, so make sure that's 6. And when you complete it, they should be also parallel. Check it by going 2 to the right, 3 up. It's 2 to the right, 3 up. The markings on opposite sides should be identical. Don't swap around the number of arrows or anything like that. Part I, to work out the area of a parallelogram, you simply multiply the length of the base by its perpendicular height. So for this, it's 6 wide, it's 3 high, it's 18. In terms of, just to quickly explain why, if you chop that off and plonk it on here, you essentially get a 6x3 rectangle. And it's the same formula as the formula for the area of a rectangle. But obviously, on the parallelogram, you can get caught out by using the diagonal. Don't. No slopes. Same with triangles. Never use a slope to find an area. Draw pattern 4 in the sequence. Easy to think it's too easy, really. Along the bottom, it's going 3, 5, 7. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the vertical bit, which is in the middle, is going up by 1 to 2 to 3. So we need to make it 4 high in total. So you only need to draw 3 extras on the top. Without drawing, work out how many dots there are. Now, you could brute force it and do a little count up. Simply say there's 4 there, there's 7 there, there's 10, there's 13, and it's not drawing, you just carry on the sequence. You go 16 and so on. Or you could go for the nth term. When it's going up in threes, there's a 3n. Compare your 3 times table to the sequence, and it's add 1. So your 10th sequence will be 10 threes, 30 plus 1. Either way is perfectly acceptable and all good. Number 5. It's that old introduction to algebra that your teachers will have done a while ago. You write down a number, they subtract 6. Divide the whole lot by 8. The answer is 81. That's it set up. Now you solve it. Times both sides by 81. We're getting 648. Adding 6 to both sides gives you the 654. No need to trial and error that. You might have a calculator. For good revision, do make sure you're using algebra. Question 6, listing outcomes. Be systematic. Okay. Keep it simple. They've started with B, carry that on. B with E, B with R. That's run out of options for B, so we move on to D. D with E, D with R. And you don't flip them around because, for example, baking and drawing is the same as doing the drawing and the baking. They're not interested in the order of the activities. And the final one, exercise and reading, giving you 6 outcomes. That's important because for part B, write down the fraction that include reading. So it's out of 6, 1, 2, 3 out of 6. Or if you cancel it down to a half, you're entirely welcome to do that. Number 7, bit of coordinates. So write down the coordinates of point P. From the origin, it's left 2, down 3. So both numbers are negative. Plot the coordinates 4 to the right, 1 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 down. Sometimes they say label it with a letter, not in this case. Write down the equation of the vertical line. Do not forget, don't fall into the trap, it's not y equals. The y-axis is vertical, but another name for the y-axis is x equals 0. So all vertical lines have the equation x equals the number they go through on the axis. So in this case, -2. We've got a formula, a little bit of substitution, a little bit of BIDMAS, but feel free to let your calculator do the BIDMAS bit for you. Find the value of A when we replace B with 3. In it goes. C with 7. And D with 5. And I know it's a calculator paper. Feel free to bash it all in and you'll get the correct answer of 36. But if you're using these past papers for revision purposes, do make sure you practice that without a calculator because BIDMAS is a very likely question, likely topic to come up on paper 2. So well worth doing it both ways, particularly as a double check, even in an exam. This will be another one where you substitute in, but it requires some solving. We replace the A with 30, the B with 4. We don't know the C, but we know the D is 6. You could expand the brackets. You could divide both sides by 4. Either will work. I've gone for expanding. 4 lots of C, 4 lots of 24. We take away 24 from both sides. And now grab your calc, divide both sides by 4. you're either going to get 1.5, 3 over 2, 1.5, or 6 over 4 even. All good. Number 9. Wordy, feel free to read up all, but if there's only red and blue, that helps you on the top, because the numerators must add up to 7. That's the easy mark. The red number takes a bit more working out. Spot the connection. If you know that 4/7 is worth 20, you find out 1/7 by dividing it by 4. And when you know 1/7, you treble it. You times it by 3 to get your 3/7. That's why that bit is worth a couple of marks. Number 10, simplifying a ratio is the same skill as simplifying a fraction. Find a number they both divide by. Try and make it the largest possible. The only number these have got in common, other than 1, which you never do, is you divide them both by 7 to give us 2 on the left, 5 on the right. Part B, ratio but also scale. Now it's one of those scales where they haven't included the units. So it's just 1 to 25,000. 2 castles are 6 kilometers apart. Straight away, 6 kilometers is the real. We are going to need to go from 6 kilometers. You go from real to map drawing by dividing by 25,000. Let's start with the 6 kilometers, because keep an eye there. Let's turn the kilometers into meters by timesing by 1,000. Then turn them into centimeters by timesing by 100. So in other words, 600,000 centimeters. But as we've said, needs dividing by 25,000, and hopefully your calc spits out 24. Number 11, the first real wordy, waffly, overcomplicating. The front of the cover of OCR actually specifically says, read the question in its entirety, read the question fully. I'll go and quote it. Read each question carefully before you start your answer. I disagree. If you particularly hate waffly, wordy questions, one line at a time. Sam eats 30% of. Stop. To find 30% of a number, you divide by 100, and of means times. Sam's eating, instead of waffle, Sam's eating 180 grams per day. Sam's run out of cereal. It's no longer sold in 600 gram pack. Well, whatever. Instead, it's sold in 400 gram packs. He eats every day for 7 days. Next job. It's 180 grams per day. Times it by 7 for the week. He's eating 1,260 grams. If you divide that by 400, you'll get 3 and a bit. He's going to be needing 4 then. And you don't need to put any more than that. That's plenty for the 5 marks. Lots of ways of doing these. Because it's a calculator paper, I would go about it the straightforward way, that if you want to increase something by 16%, your multiplier is £1.16. Stick that in your calc and you're actually already done. And like I've mentioned now, for revision, on my work solutions, which is on my website, I've done it the non-calc way. I've gone for 10%, 1%, and again, I do believe it's worth doing it that way, just in case a similar question was to crop up on paper 2. Work out the mean number of books. So, it's that table question where you do a multiplication on each line. As you'll know, the difference between this and those questions that say estimate the mean, when it says estimate, they're normally in groups of things like 0 to 5 or 1 to some, whatever. No need for that. We're not estimating here. We're straight up working it out. 0 times 11 is 0. Don't fall into that trap of thinking it's 11. Get all these times. I'm getting 8, 20, 24, 28 and 30, giving us a total of 110. You need to take that 110 and divide it by 50. It's not 6. You don't divide by the number of lines, you divide by the number of students. We get 2.2, and on we go. Number 14, a machine makes 15 boxes in 12 minutes. Now, it's easy to think it's 15 times 12 to get 118. There's a long way of going about it that way. It just says, work out how many boxes are made by this machine in 7 hours. Scale it up. To go from 12 minutes to 1 hour, you times it by 5, 60 minutes. To go from 1 hour to 7 hours, you times it by 7. That's it. Take your number of boxes. That's how many are made in 12 minutes. That's how many are made in an hour. That's how many are made in 7 hours. It's 525. Number 15. Obviously related to a geography question in terms of population density. How do you know which one to divide? Well, because it is a divide. How do we know how to divide? Well, at the moment, it's 47,000 people in 560 kilometers squared. You want number of people per kilometers squared. That should give you the clue. On the right hand side, it's divide by 560. On the left hand side, you need to divide by 560. You get 83.928 and so on. But that's how you don't need to remember if you're lucky enough to be doing GCSE geography and you know your triangle for population, number of people and population density, great. But here, you don't need to. On we go. Number 16, another waffly question, calcs at the ready. Again, one line at a time. Sports team scores 400. Great. The defenders scored 1/10 of. Stop. Do some maths. 400 divided by 10 means the defenders scored 40 points. Again, don't read on. That means the rest of the team scored 360 points. Now we can read on. The midfielders and forwards scored in the ratio of 1 to 5. Find the percentage that was scored by the forwards. So, the forwards are scoring 5 out of 6 of the 360 which are left. And that is 300 points. Now you've got that info, now you can turn it into a percentage. The forwards scored 300 out of the 400. You may know it's 75% already. If so, good luck to you. But to turn it from a fraction into a percentage, times it by the 100. Stick it in your calcs and yep, as already said, it's a 75%er. Number 17, I've been brave and daring myself to draw this because I want to show you how I do it by counting. The centre of enlargement is 0, 0. There are 3 vertices, 3 corners. Count 4 to the right, 4 up needs to be halved. It becomes 2 to the right, 2 up. This bottom right is 8 along, 4 up, halve it, 4 along, 2 up. And finally, this top right vertex is 8 and 6, halve the 8, halve the 6, and there you go. You don't need to draw the rays to do enlargements. You draw the rays, for me, in my opinion, you draw the rays as a way of double checking. Now's the time you get your ruler, you make sure it all lines up. There you go. There you go. There you go. I do think it's quite tricky to be using the rays to work out the answer when the answer can be found simply by, if the scale factors are half, halving everything. If the scale factor is 3, multiplying everything by 3. On to solving. Solve inequalities as if it's an equals sign. If it was an equals sign, we would add 3 to both sides. If it was an equals sign, if it was an equals sign, we would divide both sides by 7. And there we go. You've solved it. You've earned a couple of marks. Mark number 3, because it's a less than sign, you need an open circle above, on, or below, they're all acceptable, the 2. Because we need less than, you should be grabbing your ruler and drawing yourself an arrow. Yes, an arrow, not just a line, an arrow to the left. People always say, does it need to go beyond there? If you've got an arrow, it doesn't matter. If you've drawn one much shorter, the mark scheme allows it. Number 19. If you have trouble sticking all that into your calculator, well worth asking someone, Googling a video, because there are videos out there for your make and model. Go for it. My big advice would be, make sure you put brackets around the top part of the fraction. So I would type in, I actually use my A&S button, I'd be typing in the numerator, dividing it by the denominator, and at that point I would hit equals. Then I would, don't clear what's in your screen, press cube root and hit the A&S button. Alright, and it should be fine. Full display is 46.33744,236, and it obviously goes on. It wants 4 significant figures. There's the 4 most important numbers. The digit after is a 7, means we round up to 46.34. Number 20. Show they have the same area. Show means do. Area of the triangle is a half, so triangle is a half of the base times the height, and you should get 57.6 centimeters squared. Trapezium, look it up on your formula page, it's there. You add together the parallel sides, that's the 9 and the 15. You multiply by the distance between them, in other words, the height of 4.8, and it's halved. And you can do those operations in any order, as long as you add the parallel sides first. But guess what you get? No surprise, it's 57.6. Number 21, I've definitely cheated for this because I can't use a pie chart. I can't use a pie chart. I can't use a protractor on the screen. How did I go about it? Well, show that the sector for charity B. Well, you are told, and I always like to make a list. You've got the 4 charities. A has a 52-degree angle. We don't know what B is, but you are told in the waffle above that C is double and D is double again. In other words, these 7x's are the same as the 360 in total minus the 52. You get x to be worth 44 degrees. And that means B should have an angle of 44. C is double it. That should be 88. And if you've drawn the first 3 slices correctly, you don't have to draw the 4th one. You just double check that it's 4 lots of 44, which is 176. And you are allowed a couple of degrees either way. And that's part double I for completing the pie chart. But then, 39 students voted for charity A. Stop right there. That means 52 degrees is worth 39 students. Total number of students would be worth 360. Now, this is a very difficult multiplier, but doesn't matter. There's 2 ways of doing it. I sometimes say if it looks like a very awkward multiplier, divide by what you have and times by what you need. Do the same to both sides and you'll get your answer, which is 270. The other way of going about it, if you don't like that way, how do you find a multiplier? You do a divide. 360 divided by 52. Your calc will tell you you have a very weird multiplier of 90 over 13. It feels like you've done it wrong when you see that. No, trust your process, you've done it right. Again, still gets you. If you do the same on the right hand side, still gets you to the 270. Part C, just going to read them out, not going to write them out. Give one advantage of using the pie charts. Pie charts are very good at displaying proportions. For example, you can just look at that and you know that G is over half. So whatever survey, whatever this is about, G shows you that it's over half. It's much more popular. So I would say pie charts display proportions much better, much easier. Give one disadvantage of using the pie chart. Doesn't tell you any frequencies. It could tell you degrees, but there's no frequencies on there. This pie chart could represent 5 million people, could represent 20. There's a big difference. There's no frequencies being displayed, so it does lack accuracy in that respect. Number 22. Lots of ways of going about this one. I've gone for each pack, finding 100 grams. So smallest pack, divide everything by 7. £1.10. Second pack is not in grams. Let's change it to grams. To get from 3,000 to 100, because let's call it small, medium and large. To get 100 grams, it's divide by 30. Take the £32.40, divide by 30, and you get £1.08. Slightly cheaper. Same process for the large pack. Change it to grams by timesing by 1,000, and to go from 5,000 grams to 100 grams, you need to divide by 50. £53.90 divided by 50 goes ever so slightly smaller. In other words, it's ever so slightly cheaper. The 5 kilogram pack, the 5 kilogram pack, because it's the cheapest per 100 grams. No need to overcomplicate that bit down there. All your proper work's done up here You just need to bring it all together, keep it simple. Question 23 is an errors and bounds question. Just take it logically, the idea being, in the worst case scenario, the lower bound of the garage, the smallest possible. Now, if something has been rounded off to the nearest metre, you go up by half a metre for its upper bound, you go down by half a metre for its lower bound. So in the worst case scenario, the garage is 4.5 metres. In the worst case scenario, what's the biggest for the car? The car is being measured to the nearest one decimal place, or in other words, nearest 10 pence, if you prefer cash. If something's been rounded off to the nearest 10 pence, you go up and down by 5 pence. So, worst case scenario is that the upper bound of the car is 4.55. There's your problem. So just summarise with a statement saying the upper bound of the car is greater than the lower bound of the garage. And on we go. For number 24, it's angles, but with the complication of, as you can see, algebra. Treat it as if you were doing these things normally. The idea being, there's the transversal here, that stick, that creates a straight line. So don't read on, don't overcomplicate, don't dig too deep into it. The fact is that that angle and the acute angle make a straight line. They must equal 180. Put your x's together, add 14 to both sides, subtract 50 from both sides, and we get our value of x. Divide everything by 3. X is 48 degrees, but it doesn't say find x, it says find the value of y. As you can see, there's lots of ways of doing this. You could go, oh, y is corresponding. So that's y as well. When we've got y is opposite to the 2x plus 50, so they are equal. That'll do. Y equals 2x plus 50. Y equals 2 lots of 48 plus 50. In your calcs, we're getting 146. Several ways of doing that, finding out the y bit, by the way. On we go. Number 25. Calculate the value of x. You're getting towards the end of the paper, people, so that does mean start suspecting Pythagoras and trigonometry. In this case, suspect Pythagoras. I'm going to make a larger drawing. I'm a big fan because it helps you get your labels correct. It's not essential, but for me, just a good idea. The x happens to be now on the hypotenuse. The 15 that is there. But this base, it's neither 20 nor 12. It's 20 subtract 12. It's the whole thing is 20. Take away the 12. It's 8. And there you go. You've now got your numbers for Pythagoras. The x is on the hypotenuse, so you need to square the other two sides and add them before you square root. They end up at 289 being square rooted, so when you square root that, you get a nice 17. Number 26, as always with these, couple of ways of doing it. If you wanted to multiply the top equation by 3, that would make the y's have a 3 of each, well, minus and a plus, but that would work. But for me, I'm going to double the bottom to make the x's the same. Top equation, leave it alone. Doubling the bottom equation, I get 4x's, 3y doubled is 6 of them, and 26 doubled is 52. And because the x's are both positives, same sign, subtract. But also because the numbers on the bottom are bigger, I'm going to do bottom take away top. The x's still disappear, but I get 6y take away minus y. That's a plus y, so 6y plus y, and 52 take away 24, 28, and we've got it, haven't we? Divide both sides by 7. We get y to have a value of 4. You now pick either of your original equations. I've chosen the top equation. I'm going to replace the y with 4. 4x's doesn't change. Take away the value of y equals 24. Adding 4 to both sides. And now divide both sides by 4. We get our value for x. And number 27 to finish off with. The first number is as you'd expect. It's already in decimal form. They're much easier to compare as decimals. This second one, you could put it straight in your calculator. It'll spit out a quarter, which means it has the value of 0.25. The third number happens to be in standard form. It's a small number. You need to start with the number 2. And what does that mean? It means move the decimal point twice to the left. You've now got them all in decimal form. You can now write them in order, starting with the smallest, which is 0.02. And you are allowed to write 0.02, but I always prefer to write the originals. The middle number is that one, and the largest is 0.25, which is 2 to the minus 2. And there we go. So I hope that's helped all of you, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one.